These young Spartans battled through injuries, fighting and clawing their way in. Now, with the month of Izzo upon us, what magic has Tom got left for the Spartan faithful to rally around? And Michigan danced its way through the Big Ten tourney for their shot at a run down the road. For both, it's a shot of madness that's needed as they make their run in a march to glory.
Good evening, everyone. Happy March Madness to you, and welcome to our show, March to Glory. This has become an annual tradition for us here at Six Sports to preview the NCAA basketball tournament. We have 3 teams in the dance this year. We'll go behind the scenes with all 3 of them. Michigan State and Michigan's men's teams on the tourney road, as well as the Michigan State women's team. An exciting week for us here, and we hope an exciting week for you. Thanks for looking in tonight. Hope you enjoy this show. The Spartans learned of their tournament fate Sunday night when it was revealed they are in the Midwest Regional, and date Friday night at 9:15 is the number 9 seed against Miami of Florida. The Hurricanes have impressive victories this season over ACC foes Duke, North Carolina, and Virginia. Spartans take a very young team into this tournament with a notable 4 freshmen who get regular playing time, but pressure has never been something the MSU coach runs away from.
I hope and think that when you come here by now after 20 years, you almost embrace the pressure. You know, you talk about it in the summer, you talk about it with the former players, you embrace the pressure. It's a privilege to have that pressure. I do think these guys feel some pressure. I think they feel like they haven't lived up to Michigan State standards, and they feel some pressure, but I think it's not the daunting pressure of weighing on your shoulders. I think it's the good pressure that'll hopefully help them focus in a little bit more. A little pressure doesn't hurt. It won't be what last year's was, and that would probably be too much for this team. But I think they feel they have something to prove and something to live up to. And I'd be crazy not to want that pressure on me or them.
These 2 teams, Miami and Michigan State, have never played each other in the tournament. In fact, have only met 1 time back in November of 2012. The Hurricanes won that game over MSU 67-59 on Miami's home court. And the fans stormed the court after that upset victory for this long-delayed rematch. New faces, of course, on both sides, and the fresh faces of MSU are looking forward to the challenge of Miami and of the NCAA tournament.
If we wouldn't have played those games, we wouldn't be as good as we are today. We learned how to win, and we learned how to play under tough environments. We played at Duke. We played Champions Classic. It was a good environment, so we won't be that nervous.
Alvin or Tom been kind of sharing experiences with you guys from the Final Four run or last year?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, they just tell you it's nothing like that. You can't build that or even imagine what that feeling is like unless you experience it. So they just keep fighting to get back, and we're fighting to get there.
Just being able to have a chance to go out there and be able to play with my brothers. You know, it's a blessing from God to be able to be in the position I am right now. You know, a lot of people have way bigger problems than what I'm going through, and a lot of people, you know, trying to find out when their next meal. Somebody's dealing with cancer, so this is just a blessing, you know, from God to be able to have this opportunity.
All right, another team from our state and from the Big Ten has a big Friday date. This one much earlier in the day, 12:15 start time for Michigan in Indianapolis. That game to be seen live here on TV6. Jay Sarkar covered the Wolverines' remarkable run to a Big Ten tournament championship last weekend at Washington, D.C. He joins us now with a recap of an incredible and improbable 4-day run. Hi, Jay Bird.
Thanks, Fred. It was quite the weekend in Washington, D.C. The Wolverines went from what could have been a tragedy to Big Ten tournament champions in a span of just 5 days. Let's go ahead and recap Michigan's magical run in D.C. March 8th, 2017, Willow Run Airport. After attempting to take off in high winds, Michigan's team plane skids off the end of the runway and slides about 400 yards until coming to a rest. No one was seriously injured, but many players were shaken up by the incident.
You know, the game of basketball is, near and dear to me, but, life itself is more important. So, and I was able to step back and kind of look at a lot of things differently. And, playing basketball is the easy thing now when you think about what you went through yesterday.
After taking a team vote on whether to play Illinois in the Big Ten tournament or forfeit the game, Michigan took the court Thursday in its practice uniforms that played loose. beating the Fighting Illini 75-55.
I don't know, we just had to embrace the sudden change, and it was just going to make us closer, and it did so.
On Friday, the uniforms changed, but Michigan's great play did not. The Wolverines went on to beat Purdue and Minnesota to reach the Big Ten title game for the first time since 2014.
I took Derek to the airport before the Nebraska game. He and I just went in my car to Park, and he just told me, Coach, we're going to go win this tournament. That's my goal. We're going to win this tournament. I'd never had anybody say that before.
On Sunday, Derek Walton came through on the promise he made 7 days before. Michigan took down Wisconsin 71-56 to clinch the program's first Big Ten tournament title in 19 years. And for the Wolverines, the celebration was jubilant.
We thought we could make a short run at this very point in time in the year, and like I said, I just felt like we was clicking on all cylinders. And we came out, and in the first game here, I think you guys got a sense of how good we can be, how talented we are at all 5 spots. But I just got a high sense of belief in this group of guys.
It was great, especially with the week that we've had, with everything that happened this past Wednesday. We're extremely just blessed and grateful to be in the position we are in.
A lot of people kind of wondered if when you guys started winning those first couple games Thursday, Friday, this might be kind of a team of destiny feel for this tournament. Now you guys have won the whole thing. Do you kind of feel a little bit that way?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think we've felt that since the beginning, especially the big one over Purdue. And then when we were cutting down the nets, we all just gathered together and we said that we did it. And I think the big message when Coach talked to us afterwards is we're not done yet.
You go game by game, so I think that's what we did, and that's what paid off too. All of those teams we beat in the last couple of days are really, really good teams. Right now, I just feel like a champ, and that's it.
While Michigan relishing its Big Ten tournament title and already will be hanging a banner next fall, the Wolverines are hoping that with the hot streak they're currently on, maybe another banner could be raised inside the Chrysler Center as well. Fred, back to you.
All right, thanks, Jay. Maybe this banner they could leave up, unlike the one they won back in 1998. So 2 teams, 98. 2 teams in the dance, both playing on Friday on St. Patrick's Day. Sounds like a lot of people just might be playing hooky this Friday, I'm just saying. When we return back to the Spartans, for all the talk about the new faces on this year's team, there is a senior who has been significant along the way in getting MSU in. He's Alvin Ellis III, and Jay is back to share his chat with him up next on March to Glory.
March to Glory.
For people to sit there and say that crap about them is ridiculous. This is a gold standard basketball program in this country, coached by probably the best coach in the country. And if you think that they're going to fold in December, you guys are crazy. Guy can coach, and he's got talented players. Does he have some guys missing? Yeah. Is a great player missing? Yeah. And all this is going to do is make those other guys better. And I guarantee you they'll be there in March. They will be there. They're no bubble team. They're going to kick a lot of people's rear ends.
Those are the strong words of Oakland University basketball coach Greg Kampe back in December after his team lost to Michigan State. Miles Bridges was out of the lineup, and there was a speculation this was going to be a down year in East Lansing. Kampe said hogwash, as he heard, and now welcome to March, and the Spartans are dancing. 20th straight time for Tom Izzo in the NCAA tournament. So what exactly does that mean to him?
20 straight years is going to mean so much to me later on in life. It means a lot to me now, but not even close to what it'll mean later on. Some of you guys that were here with me at the beginning, biggest thing I talked about even after we won it, come back 10 years, 15 years, are we consistent? Not always great, but are we pretty consistent? 20 straight years of doing something at this level is pretty consistent. I hope people appreciate it.
Indeed. All right, just 3 seniors on this Spartan team, and one of them is standing tall heading into the tournament after his best season to date. We welcome back Jay Sarkar now to share with us his conversation with Alvin Ellis III. Jay?
Fred, you hit the nail on the head. The Spartans knew this season would be a challenge, but Alvin Ellis III has been a steady veteran presence, attempting to guide this young team through the ups and downs of the Big Ten season. I sat down with Ellis to discuss leadership, his relationship with Coach Tom Izzo, and much more.
Goins, the kick to Ellis.
It means a lot, you know, just to know that Coach Izzo trusts me, you know, as a senior to, you know, try to lead these younger guys and, you know, lead the rest of the guys who really don't have that much experience. I mean, it means a lot to me.
Well, there's no question that Alvin Ellis is at his best year as a Spartan. And what a better time than his senior year.
Your first 3 years here, Elite Eight, Final Four, Big Ten tournament champions last year with one of the best regular seasons in program history. Going through this year, what was it like trying to steward those 4 freshmen and some of the younger kids through all this adversity?
You know, we had high expectations this year, especially with the freshman class, and then we had Ben and Gavin coming in, and you know, they went down, and, you know, we like, what are we going to do now? A lot of people were out, and then E just went down previously. I mean, it's been tough for us to go through that adversity, but, you know, we're just going to try to keep teaching the younger guys that it's one and done time now. So we never know when our last game might be. We got to take every game. You know, we can't look past the one game that we have in front of us. We got to finish that game right then and there, and then we can move on. But until that's done, we got to keep working.
5 threes in a row against Ohio State. On nights where you're really on, is it something that you do before the game, or is it just you kind of see the first one go in and it just kind of clicks from there?
Just seeing the first one go in. You know, after that, my teammates are just finding me, finding open looks, taking good shots, and making a shot. So I mean, I just had a rhythm, and I was feeling it that game.
Everyone knows you're famous for your bow and arrow celebration. Does that have a backstory to it?
No, I mean, I seen an NBA player do it maybe like my sophomore year, and I just took it from there.
One thing that comes to mind for me was senior day last year when you did it and Daniel Gibbons flipped you off.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even aiming it at, you know, I was just doing it, and I wasn't aiming it at the bench or at anybody, and it was just funny. I seen the video, and it was just funny.
Izzo used to say that, you know, he's talked about all year this team is trying to block out the noise. You know, he said earlier in your career maybe you kind of fell victim to the noise a little bit. So as you grew older through your time here, was there anyone or anything specifically you learned to kind of try and block that out?
I just kept playing, just kept getting in the gym, just kept talking to the coaching staff, and, you know, just watching film, doing the little things I could to get on the floor and stay on the floor. I mean, so I just kept grinding it out.
What was that journey kind of like for you to, you know, go through that more than 2-year stretch of, you know, you signed up to play at Michigan State and try to make an impact, but you kind of found yourself being more of a role player?
You know, it wasn't tough. You know, I just tried to play my role, whatever the team needed me to do. You know, as far as playing defense, making open shots when I could, just trying to do anything I could to help us win games.
Finally, when you look back, when you graduate, what kind of legacy do you think Alvin Ellis III leaves behind? When people see your name or watch your highlights, what do you want them to think of?
I just want them to think of, like, I was a tough kid, you know. I always grinded it out. I didn't quit, didn't stop, you know, didn't stop working. Just going to grind it out and toughen it out.
Alvin certainly hopes he can add to his legacy by helping the Spartans get a pair of big wins this weekend to advance to the Sweet 16 for the 3rd time in his 4 seasons. Fred.
All right, thanks for that, Jay. And Ellis is still hoping his finest hour and his best story is still to be told, maybe in the coming weekend or even perhaps coming weekends. When we come back, time to talk about one of the 4 freshmen on the MSU roster, and what a freshman he's been. Maybe Tom Izzo's top recruit ever. And Miles Bridges has lived up to his press clippings in year 1. We'll chat with his dad, Ray Bridges, about the early years with Miles, about his future, too. Up next on March to Glory.
A moment ago, our cameras caught you in a rather dejected mood. But then I suppose as head coach at Michigan State University, why, you sort of get used to these ups and downs.
Well, Bob, you never get used to them. You more or less just have to live with them. In fact, would you like to see a couple more of these so-called magic moments of the coach?
Sure, if you're game.
Well, let's go down and see the quiet coach in action again.
The words of one-time MSU coach Forty Anderson, who spent 12 years as the head man here from 1954 to 1965. A record one game over 500 during his time. His real name was Forrest Anderson, but everyone knew him as 40. That was clearly a different era of Spartan basketball, and Tom Izzo looks to continue his marvelous March legacy this weekend in Tulsa. Spartans practiced yesterday and today, and then after today's practice, the Spartans loaded the bus and left for the airport just about an hour ago on the evening flight to Oklahoma. 2 practices in Tulsa tomorrow. One is just for show at the arena tomorrow night so the fans can watch. Then it's down to business in preparation for Friday night's game with Miami, whose coach Jim Larranaga has more career victories even than Tom Izzo. 609 and 402 for Larranaga, who talks about the Spartans and their strengths and, of course, their coach.
I've known Tom Izzo for more than 30 years. We competed when I was at Bowling Green, then again at George Mason. We played him twice. And then our second year here, we played Michigan State. And Tom Izzo, very much like the North Carolina system, the Michigan State team, they run so fast. Their point guard, his nickname is Tum Tum, is about as fast a player as there is in the country. Their 4 and 5 man, Nick Ward and Miles Bridges, are about as good a 4-5 combination as there is in the country. Miles Bridges is a likely lottery pick when he turns pro. Nick Ward is #1 in the country in offensive rebound percentage and also in getting fouled. So they're a handful.
You heard Larranaga make reference to Miles Bridges. Even as a freshman, he is the straw that stirs the drink for the Spartans, clearly. Bridges' high-scoring act has fans oohing and eyeing all season long. Originally from Flint Southwestern High School, Bridges then went to a prep school in Huntington, West Virginia, and his stock has soared ever since. He was one of the most highly sought recruits coming into college. Recently, I had a chance to chat with Miles Bridges' dad, Ray Bridges, who talked about his son's future and his past since he introduced Miles to the game at the age of 2.
I took him to the YMCA. I made him take karate, so I wanted him to learn how to attack on his tiptoes. He was almost a black belt, but he quit. He went down to Huntington Prep. They came and got him after his 9th grade year at Southwestern. And they said he got so much talent. He was dunking the ball. He started dunking the ball in the 9th grade.
Did he?
Yeah, he put on a show.
So what kind of decision will he have to make here in a month?
I told him, stay in school. You know you ain't ready for pros.
You told him that?
I did.
So you think he needs another year?
Yeah, another good year. Bring a couple more big men in there. Let him work with the big men. Let him run the wing. If he run that wing, he's going to be tough.
So you think he'll be back?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
We'll see if Miles goes or stays, but I'm sure Spartan fans are siding with his dad. Stay in school another year. Time will tell. And we should have that answer shortly after the tournament ends. Time to switch genders when we come back. The MSU women also tournament bound and also with a Friday game for openers. We'll go one-on-one with the Spartan Star senior guard and clear-cut leader, Tori Jen Koska. That's next on March to Glory. 2 Spartan teams on their way to weekend NCAA tournament action. The Spartan men to Tulsa, and the MSU women will head out tomorrow to Columbia, South Carolina.
Arizona State.
Spartans drew Arizona State from the Pac-12. MSU, the number 9 seed, will play Friday night at 7:30 in Columbia. ASU, the number 8 seed. If they win, the Spartan ladies would likely have to play a number 1 seed in game 2, and in this case, that would be South Carolina, which is hosting this opening round. Spartans haven't played in 2 weeks, and Coach Susie Merchant very happy just to get in.
That's where you want to be. I mean, you certainly want to be a team that is in the NCAA tournament. You can't go win a national championship if you're not in it, and I think that's certainly what we all aspire to, certainly here at Michigan State in every sport. So I'm excited about the draw, excited about getting on a plane and going down there and playing in South Carolina.
The men play and come right back and play the same week. It's different for the women. How difficult is that, the lull between the end of the season and the start of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're grooving a little bit. We were playing pretty well down the stretch. But at the same time, it is nice to sort of get your legs underneath you a little bit. And most of the power conferences are like that. You know, not many go right up like our men do, go right up until the selection show.
Have you learned anything from Izzo about March?
Yeah. I mean, isn't it January, February, Izzo? That they name a month after him? I've learned that. Yeah, I mean, he just is a great preparation guy, you know. I mean, he really knows how to do it. They have it down to a science with all his video people and his graduate assistants and, you know, the things that they do and the way they do it.
So you've stolen from some of that, haven't you?
Oh, my gosh, yeah, I steal all the time from him. We run a few of the same out-of-bounds plays and a couple of quick hit sets they have and that kind of thing. So, I mean, we talk a lot.
How tournament ready do you think this team is?
I think we're ready. I mean, I think we're anxious. I think, like I said, our non-conference, we played a really good non-conference schedule. You know, I certainly think the Big Ten, you know, you play the Ohio States and Marylands and teams like that at the rigors of the Big Ten. I think that you're prepared. We'll find out, certainly, this weekend.
All right, 7:30 game time Friday for the Spartans in Arizona State. Be a good idea for the Sun Devils to keep an eye on #1 for MSU. She's Tori Jankowska, and nobody has been able to stop her yet this season. Though our Alex Sims did stop her long enough for a sit-down chat. She joins us now. Hi, Alex.
Tori Jankowska, a Freeland native, didn't care how much time she played or even if she played at all. All she ever dreamed of was to be on the Michigan State basketball roster. But 4 years later, as her college career is coming to a close, she has become one of the most important players in program history.
Tori Jankowska came to East Lansing thinking she would just be another number on the roster. 4 years later, she's a number all right, breaking records no other Michigan State women's basketball player has ever done. MSU's all-time leading scorer, all-time leading three-point shooter, and the first Spartan to score over 2,000 points. Now, how about that for numbers?
I knew the kid would be a very good player. I didn't expect her to be a great player, you know, but I didn't know what her work ethic was. The bottom line, the difference between her and every other kid on our team is she's in the gym all the time, and she cares about how she performs every night, but she puts the work into it. You know, the kid was a three-point shooter that really didn't have much else to her game.
I never knew, you know, if I was ever going to be good enough to play here. It's been my dream to play here, and anything beyond that, even scoring a couple points, has been truly like a blessing and amazing, and something I never would even have imagined. I remember getting pictures with Lindsey Bowen, Liv Shimmick, and getting their autograph and being one of those little girls running around. I was kind of born into it. We were always Michigan State fans. They're known for the toughness, the rebounding, you know, the defense, the hard work plays, and that's what my game is really based on. So being a Spartan is really what my whole game is based about.
That ability to become more than just a shooter, more than just an offensive threat, is how Tori turned the corner and became a star.
She got a pull-up. You know, we post her. She can drive now. She's become a playmaker. We've played her at multiple positions. You know, it's just like, I don't think a lot of the nation really knows how good she is.
Even more astonishing is the fact that she was self-taught.
I think I was born with it because neither of my parents played, and neither of them that knew much about basketball. It was just, you know, my mom said I picked one up and I just couldn't put it down.
And that is the difference. I mean, if there's kids out there that want to be like Tori, I'm going to tell you one thing: get in the gym and work.
Even with all the sweat, the tears, and hard work, Tori wouldn't change playing for the green and white for the world.
I always say it's a dream come true, but it's been even more than that. Like, even more than I could have imagined. It's, you know, the people I've met playing basketball in front of all of these fans, the teammates, the coaches. It's really been a big family, and especially the senior year, it's been better than I could have ever imagined.
And I remember when we were in Susie's office and they said, we want you to come to Michigan State. And she didn't at first understand that that was an offer to play basketball here. And I looked at her and I said, Tori, and I'm not kidding, it's true. She didn't understand that that's what that was. And I'm like, that was an offer, honey. And she goes, oh my gosh, I have to go back, I have to tell them I want to go here.
And while her college basketball career is nearing an end, this most likely won't be the last you see of her.
In the last couple months, it's something I'm going to look forward to doing, but I'm staying out of all the details. I'm not trying to think about it, not trying to change anything I do, but if that opportunity comes, I'll definitely take it.
I think the kid's a top 10 draft pick. You're crazy if you do not draft that kid. You're crazy. Her heart is bigger than anything. She averages almost 9 rebounds a game. She's a triple-double almost every night. I mean, she won't pass the eye test, but that kid is a warrior and as good as they get.
Tori Jankowska is projected in many WNBA mock drafts to go 12th. We'll just have to wait to see come April. Fred?
Quite a story, quite a player. Thanks, Alice. Alex heads now on the road. She'll be covering the MSU men in Tulsa. Her reports for 6 Sports begin tomorrow. When we come back, we go back to the MSU men, who are losing one member of their family today. Not officially on staff, Brian Gregory has been helping out as a volunteer this season, but he started on his new job today. We'll hear from BG up next on March to Glory. Stay with us.
March to Glory.
Welcome back. Tom Izzo is losing a trusted confidant. In fact, his last day on the job was yesterday. Brian Gregory, Izzo's former top assistant, has been with the Spartans all season as a volunteer advisor. In fact, I talked to BG just a couple of weeks ago about that role. There are times during the game I'll notice he'll come to you and ask you what you think, right?
Well, nothing's changed, you know. He'll ask for, a suggestion. I'll give it to you, give it to him, and he'll tell me to shut up. So it's just like the old days, Fred. It's just like that. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Gregory told me that day is simply between jobs. Well, that case is no longer. He was hired yesterday as the new head coach at South Florida. He got a 6-year contract, so last night was his last practice with MSU. He left for Tampa today to start with his new gig and leaves, of course, with mixed emotions. So you were planning on going to Tulsa, and this came up, right?
Yeah, this has been I feel awful about that. I really do, but because of the situation and the opportunity, I'm not going to be able to make the trip. Now, I'm still trying to figure out a way, maybe on Friday night to get out there. It's a late game because I'm going to be traveling a little bit. But I, for sure, figure out a way to get there Sunday.
Did hanging around here was it just because you had time, or did it kind of hone your skills a little bit?
Well, there's no doubt I use this year to get better and to improve and to look at some things in a different way. Sometimes as a head coach, even as an assistant, when you're so engrossed in it, you never have a chance to take a step back and take a look at the totality of everything and how this piece works with that piece, because you're in survive mode a lot. Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Fred. Last year I haven't been in survive mode. I've been in nice opportunity to I told you after 6 months, my wife said maybe you should find something to do.
If the Spartans can win Friday and get to Sunday, I'm sure Gregory and a whole lot of members of the Spartan family will find their way to Tulsa. When we come back, a chat with the man himself, Mr. March, Tom Izzo. He gives us his time each year for these specials. We'll do it in 2 parts tonight. Part 1 coming up. Time to sit down with the coach. You know the line. Susie just said it. Susie Merchant. The calendar reads January, February, and Izzo. And while he downplays that Mr. March moniker, Tom Izzo will never downplay his very favorite month of the year. I'm chuckling a little because you got that gleam in your eye. When March comes, you just get that gleam in your eye, don't you?
You know, as dumb as it sounds, I do. And let's face it, I mean, this is not under the greatest circumstances in a way. And there's been a lot of pressure, and there's been all the streaks, the this, the that, But I do. I don't know why. I am definitely energized to see how long we can play, and I feel good about it. I feel good about our practices. I'm not stupid. I've been in it enough years now where I'm realistic in things. But every time I say, wow, can we really do this? And if we can beat Miami, how would you beat Kansas? And then I think back of the different years I was in it when somebody got upset, somebody got hurt. We got a guy hurt when we were good. I think of last year's 2-15 game. There's so many reasons. Basketball is so different than football. One bad shooting night or one good shooting night or one extra foul to a key player, it just changes so much that I'm excited for the opportunity, because once you have the opportunity, a lot of things can happen.
I work nights, so sometimes I'll actually drive by the Breslin 1:32 in the morning. In that film room, the lights are often on.
This time of year was great. We had Selection Sunday. You have the families here, and you have a little food in there and that. And I said, make sure you order double the food because those 12 managers are going to be working late and those coaches are going to be working late. So I made sure they brought another set back around 9:30 at night to keep those guys going. It is the fun part, Fred. It's fun to work till you're tired. It's fun to know you get to feel bad and ugly. I mean, it's one of the things that I cherish at this time of year, you know, is see how much you can get in. It's been a little different this year because I'm really trying to balance what I do with the players. You know, I'm trying to balance the overload, you know, the paralysis by analysis type theories, but not that way for the coaches. You know, we can go home, you don't sleep much. Why would you want to sleep, you know? Comes a time in your life where you get to sleep for 1 billion years. I don't really have any interest in that.
Sleep's
right now.
overrated. Huh?
Overrated by a long shot.
Did the March thing start right away? I mean, the obsession with March. Did you have to learn how to do that? Was that a progression, or did that start right away?
Boy, it came pretty quick for me, you know. It was getting into the NIT the first 2 years, and that was kind of exciting because it was my first real, you know, tournament type atmosphere. My second year we played out at Fresno, and Tark gave me a few words of advice and, you know, and said, hey, you'll get this team where you need to get it. And then that next year when we got in and we went to a Sweet 16 and beat a Princeton team that nobody thought we could beat, I learned how it got exciting quick. I remember riding home with the president sitting right next to me on the plane, and just all the excitement and all the board members, and those were fun times because they were first times, you know. Sometimes I do miss that, but it's okay. It means that you've had success, and I don't think it necessarily has to mean you have complacency. It just means that it's more expected. And once in a while I say, man, like I said to Brian this week, remember back. But don't we all do that?
I want to talk about this weekend and your opponent, maybe your opponents, and your return trip to Tulsa in a moment, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, part 2 of that conversation is coming up. We will hear from Tom Izzo about the time he actually left Michigan State, took a new job in the city the Spartans play in Friday night. Was only gone 7 weeks. You got to see this, and you will, up next. Stay with us. Welcome back to March to Glory, and as always, leading the Spartans march is the man who never sleeps, Tom Izzo. And in part 1 of our conversation, he shared his thoughts a moment ago on his love of March and how he's preparing this young team a little differently. In part 2, he talks about, among other things, Friday night's matchup with another legendary coach from Miami. Jim Larrañaga is the coach of Miami. You don't play many coaches with more wins than you.
He's got them.
He's got over 600.
Yeah, he's done a good job, you know, when he was at Bowling Green, of course, George Mason, and then Miami, you know, he's done a very good job. He was an assistant, I think, at Virginia back in the Ralph Sampson era. He's been around the block a few times, you know. He's got years on everybody, but has done a very, very good job, and his formula has been similar every place he's been. You know, Jim's a friend, and I think he and his wife have been friends for years, and you know, I wish him luck, just not Friday night.
You took a job in Tulsa back in '86. You were there a few weeks.
7
weeks. Been back since?
You know, I haven't.
You haven't been to Tulsa?
I have not been to Tulsa since. Kept an eye on him because my good friend Flip Saunders, you know, we hired as I left, was there for 3 years. You know, Tubby Smith, when Tubby was at Kentucky or especially Minnesota, you know, every time we got together, we talked about J.D. Barnett, the guy that he worked for at VCU, I worked for there. And remember a couple good steakhouses. Other than that, I didn't see the heat because J.D., we were working from 6:30 in the morning until 12:30. He made Judd look like a, you know, I don't know what, but it was unbelievable hours.
You're making good money then, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I made 4 times what I made as a GA. So I guess you could call that good money. It's not where my GAs almost make what I made when I went to Tulsa. That either means I'm getting old, or it means that the pay wasn't as good as I thought.
Were they upset when you left Tulsa and came back here?
Yeah,
they were.
That was a tough day, man. I mean, JD had lost like 8 assistants in like a 4-year period. And most of them moved up. Kevin O'Neill just took the job at Arizona. And so when I interviewed, he made me promise that I wasn't going anywhere. And I did, because when I left here, Judd told me Mike Dean's going to stay another 3-4 years. This would be a good move for you. So I took it. And 6.5 weeks later, Judd called and said, "You aren't going to believe this, but Mike Dean might go to Siena." And he called me the next day and said he turned the job down. And as disappointed as I was excited because I didn't have to face JD and tell him, you know. And so what happened is the next day, after he turned it down, he thought about it and took the job. That Friday will go down in my memory for the rest of my life, because I had to go in and talk to JD, and he didn't have time on Friday. And so when I did it on Saturday morning, he had already gotten a tip from Flip Saunders, my good buddy. That was not a pretty morning. But I don't blame JD. I mean, but I didn't blame me either. This was my dream job. I wouldn't have left for 98% of the jobs in the country. I'm a pretty loyal guy. But Michigan State was Michigan State.
Have you ever thought about how different your life and career would be if Mike Dean didn't take that job at Siena?
Sure, I do often. You know, I might have been digging oil wells now back down in Tulsa, because I probably would have got fired there.
You want to win the weekend, of course.
Of course.
Because of the teams you play and your history with Kansas, you feel like this team won't fear that challenge if you can get by Miami, do you?
You know, I've always had this theory that so I could put something on myself and my staff and something on the players. I always told them, get me through the first one, I'll get you through the second one. For the most part, over 20 years, it's had enormous success. Some of that with good teams, some of that with not as good of teams. But I think it means that in one day we have to be able to prepare, and I feel real confident in my staff in doing that. Kansas, not looking ahead one iota, because I know where we are with Miami. But we've had some epic games with Kansas, some very good games, and we've had some success. I can promise you one thing: if somehow, some way we can get by Miami, don't know what'll happen with Kansas except this: there'll be no fear, and there'll be 200 former guys calling back, letting our players know that this can be done. The goal is always to win the weekend. After my first 2 years, I actually learned from Mike Krzyzewski, you know, once your program gets to a certain point, there aren't a lot of people here that are going to celebrate over us winning a game in the NCAA tournament, including the head coach. So I'm right with them. But learning how to win the weekend is a culture, is something you have to deal with and learn how to do. And, you know, these guys don't know how yet. I mean, there's not many of them that have won many weekends that are playing on this team. But what a new and exciting, and get a chance to reinvent myself to teach them how to do that. Doesn't get any better than that, Fred.
Well, good luck, and thanks as always for your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
14 years I've been doing these shows. He has not once turned an interview request down, as busy as he is. A rare coach, indeed a rare guy. Mr. March, can he do it again? That's why we play the games, and that's why we love March. Thanks for looking in tonight. More tonight at 11. Alex Sims on the road. She's there now. She's in Tulsa tomorrow. We'll see you tonight at 11. Have a great night.
March to Glory has been sponsored by SBS.